you hungry, friends, because this is one of the best pieces of steak. This is Julia Child's sauteed steak with mushrooms. This is full. We've got so much deep flavor in this with the mushrooms, beef stock, this lovely steak and cream sauce, because you know it's Julia Child's. We're not skipping on the cream and butter. It's worth buying an expensive meat. Okay, friends, tonight we are making steak. When we went shopping this morning, Ryan was like, oh, we're gonna eat so good tonight. Now I can see why he was so excited for me to do this Julia Child's challenge. So we're gonna make filet of, it's like sauteed beef with mushrooms. What's the French version? Here, put it right here.
Well, I mean, sauté de boeuf à la Parisian sautéed beef.
Beef sauteed with cream and mushroom sauce.
Yeah.
For those of us who don't speak French. So I'm really excited. We got us a really nice meat. Meat is expensive right now, but this is like a treat yourself meal. So we are sauteing. We're not just like, normally when I cook a steak, you know, I have a nice big thick piece of steak. We put it there, we cook the bottom, we flip it, and then I'll put it in the oven to do a slow cook. This is more of a saute, and it's supposed to be a quicker thing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean this up. Julia tells us to clean up the griddle and stuff, so that's like this. We're gonna get rid of that. And then we're gonna cut these like in about half. Now she said 2 ounces and then ½ an inch thick, but we watched this very entertaining YouTuber, and when he did it, 2 inch, it really cooked and got overcooked because you're gonna finish it in the cream sauce. So I'm gonna keep the thickness, but cut them in half. See? Yuck. You don't want that.
What type of beef?
What type of beef is this? The filet, right?
Yeah, it's this filet of butt tenderloin.
Looks really nice.
I really like tenderloin. It's super expensive.
He's really excited about this. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. Is just clean this up and cut them in half.
And you talk as you cut. That's how they do it on the TV shows.
Yeah, but they often edit out when it gets too boring.
I just love, cooking in the country. Some of the, sometimes you can hear the birds outside because I get the... That's how you do
Where's
it.
The birds?
No, you're supposed to cut and talk.
So this is how Brian wants me to do my cooking show. Oh, now we are cutting the meat in half.
Have you seen the prairie home lady or whatever her name is? And she's like,
I'm not the prairie home lady.
John is out working in the fields.
Okay. Here's my 2 pieces of meat. I need to clean it more. You basically can just feel it, and you see I feel here that like it's really tough, and we want a good mouthfeel, right? Like, so you don't want to like bite into it. It's like, that's not good. So that's what we're cutting off.
When I was a young girl growing up, I ate, some meat like this, but never, this fancy. This is a real treat for me.
Yeah, but those are boring. They get boring.
Even Julia tells little stories. The Chicken Sisters! It's the Chicken Sisters! Miss.
Okay, so I'm cutting this, and if you notice, they're probably not completely equal. It would be better if they're equal. But it's better to cook than to not cook.
Yes.
That's my theory.
Anyone can cook.
Wait, that's for ratatouille. There's my beautiful pieces of meat. I'm going to set this aside and let them come up to room temperature while we make our mushrooms. Okay, it's time to cook the mushrooms, and because it is Julia, we are doing butter. I hope those they all landed in the pan. So we're going to do medium-high heat. We're going to get that melting and it's like starting to foam, and then we're going to throw in our mushrooms, which we were lazy and we got pre-sliced. We're not cooking all of these. The recipe calls for ½ pound, which is like this much, and we don't want to crowd the pan. Whenever you're trying to brown something, moisture is your enemy, and then too much in like not enough space is your enemy, because you want to keep it hot, and the more you have in the pan, the cooler the pan can get. And you need everything touching the bottom to get it nice and brown, and that brown is flavor. What are you eating, Marianne? She's eating something. Chocolate chips. Okay, so while my butter's getting the temp and it's real close, I'm just slicing a little bit of green onion that we're gonna throw in at the end. Does that scare you, honey?
I just don't want you to chop your finger off.
Our butter's starting to foam and sizzle. Ooh, you want to come up so you can hear it? It's foaming and sizzling. Ooh. So then we're gonna put in our mushrooms. These are pretty big slice, so we don't want them to crowd. And the recipe, like, this is part of the sauce, so it's not, you know, we're not eating we're eating steak. So this is the sauce, so we don't need a ton of mushroom. But in her thing, she does this, like, it's not working. Woo. 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 Oh, did you see I flipped? Woo. Woohoo! Does that scare you? Woo. So this is what you're supposed to do for about 4 or 5 minutes. You'd get them like this so they're absorbing all the fat. Then you would salt them, and then when you salt, they release all their liquids. You cook off the liquids, and then you get them down to a brown. Well, Julia, what she was teaching is what you're doing here, we don't add salt. And so they absorb the fat, and then they let it out, and then they brown a lot faster. So this is interesting. And then what it also does is it keeps the mushroom more juicy inside, because we're not getting rid of all of the moisture. So if you were wondering, I don't think you were, but now you know. Okay, so we have a beautiful brown on our mushrooms, and then I'm putting in my green onion, and we're just gonna give that a tossy-turvy here. And then we're gonna put it to the side. We're gonna use this to finish our sauce at the end. So over here we have the butter. Do not touch a hot pan at home, folks. So we have the butter here. It's starting to foam, and as soon as it's all melty, we're gonna put the meat in. But before you put the meat in, you have to dry it. Okay, pause it, because I forgot to dry it. When your meat is been dried, then you're gonna put it on a very hot pan. Yay, sizzle! That's what we want. We want to hear the sizzle. And we're not going to crowd these. We're going to cook for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side, is what Julia says. And because we've kept the thickness, that's probably about right. But if you do cut them in half, you're probably going to do less. Now the reason it's important not to overcook this right now is we're going to finish it with a cream sauce, and that will keep cooking. And the longer you cook meat, the more tough it can get. And if you have a really expensive piece of meat, I don't want to overcook this and, you know, not be able to take advantage of the tenderness. Mary? Okay, so ours is nice and crispy, but still it's nice and gooey in the middle. So that's what we want. I can tell it's really soft, so it's not finished cooking. Now Julia, I need an oven mitt. Julia says to get rid of the fat here, and although that's a lot of flavor, we're going to be adding our own fat. We still have all the little bits in the pan that are flavor, so I'm adding in beef broth, and then some very dry vermouth in here. And then we're gonna saute this down until it reduces to concentrate the flavor. Reduce this to about 1/3 of a cup of liquid. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna whisk in the cream. So the cream has a lot of fat. So this is acting as our butter that's gonna react with the wine to make it thick. So, but what you have to do is you're gonna stir in about a cup, and she says to whisk, what does she say, blend? So the reason we had to really concentrate that sauce is now we've added in all this cream, and if you had too much liquid, it won't taste as good. It'd be diluted in flavor. So we're doing this, we're gonna bring it to simmer. And you don't wanna overcook the cream. Once you put in the cream, then you put in the cornstarch mixture, which is a tablespoon of cream and 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. This is gonna thicken the sauce. And it's very interesting to me that they use cornstarch. Because those of us in the gluten-free world, we know cornstarch is super handy, replaced for flour in sauces. The reason people have been using it for a long time is it thickens without adding flavor. So flour does add flavor, and sometimes they would want that, but sometimes you don't. You don't want to taste the thickener, but you want it a little more thick. Oh yeah, it's starting to thicken up pretty quickly there. So now we're gonna add in our mushrooms here. Okay. And then I'm gonna taste this real quick. Here. There's a lot of flavor. But we're gonna add in our salt. So I'm gonna do a good pinch of salt for me, because she wants you to taste it yourself. Where's my pepper? And a bit of pepper. Okay. Now we're gonna put our meat back in here to finish it off, and this way the meat is really gonna absorb a lot of the flavor here. So we're just gonna kind of, smother it. Add in some beautiful parsley, which feels very 80s. Ta-da! It's totes gorge, as Barbie would say. We've watched a lot of Barbie. Anyway, it's beautiful. Now I need to try it. Well, Miriam's happy. Oh, that's so tender. And it's still pink in the middle, which is what we want. I don't know what Miriam's laughing at, but she's happy. There's a lot. That meat is so good. I almost don't have to chew. It's really good. I love that door. So you have a lot of flavor in this sauce from the beef stock and the vermouth. Plus the richness of the cream. It's very luxurious. It would go great with some potatoes, like roasted potatoes, roasted veg. Yes. Very, very happy with that. I'm gonna try one of these mushrooms. Who else loves mushrooms? So good. So, try this. Go make it. It's easy. Takes a little time, but sometimes it's worth it.